Hello everyone, Jazz here, and today I thought I would show off some of my favorite book covers of books that I own. Now, I'm not the type of person that buys a book solely on the book cover, but I do appreciate a lovely book cover when I see one, and these are some of the ones that I like the best. And I decided, for the sake of my brain and my inability to make decisions, that I would only choose to show off books that I have read. Let's just go on and show some pretty book covers. Woohoo! These are in no particular order, but I thought I'm going to start with some of the more simplistic ones. The first one is Neil Gaiman's book Stardust. Now, I really like this one because I'm really into things with vine designs. I just have always drawn sort of doodled designs like this my own self, so I think that's why I like that so much. Teal and gold, and just a really nice off-white color, and it's just a lovely addition book cover for a paperback. Next one is also another paperback fantasy novel, and it is The Last Unicorn. I really like this book cover just for the colors, and it's got kind of like an ombre cover thing going on in the title. It also has that little vine theme that I've already talked about, how much I love just kind of vine things in general. So that's why I really like it. Also, it's appropriate, obviously, because the book is about a unicorn. It's got a fabulous, really cool looking unicorn on the cover. Next one that I have in front of me is just the Charlotte's Web book cover. I just really love the illustration of it and how the Charlotte's Web bit has actual webs inside of the font. I really like too that this book cover is, it's not a dust jacket, it's just attached to the book, which I think is quite nice because sometimes you bend up your dust jackets, so it's just a nice way to go. This is Alice in Wonderland as well as Through the Looking Glass. They're both in here. Now, if you have followed me for a while, you know that I'm not the hugest fan of these books, but I do still keep the book. I have not unhulled this book because the cover is super pretty. I believe these are the original illustrations. It does include, some illustrations inside, which I think are really nice. And it's just a really lovely, pretty looking book on your shelf. So even though it's not my favorite book in the world, I still keep it and will always keep it because it's just beautimous. This cover is just really artistic, and also the whole book is really artistic. So it is the pop-up edition of Stephen King's The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I really enjoyed the book when I read it as just a plain book, and they made a really cool pop-up edition of it. So it actually has pop-up pictures with the writing. And I think the cover is really fabulous too. It's got some really cool shiny trees in the back, and also the painting kind of aesthetic to it is really lovely, and it definitely fits the story. So I think it's just a really cool addition as well as a really cool cover. Next one is a kind of simplistic one, and it is The Impossible Knife of Memory by Laurie Ellis Anderson. Forgive me for this little sticker here, but it is an autographed copy, so that's why the sticker, and I just left it there because I didn't want to mess up the cover. But I really like this cover because it's got a really interesting font, and the picture fits the novel without being too literal. It fits definitely the events and the themes and a lot of the color symbolism that is going on in this book, and it's just not too literal, but it definitely expresses what the book is about and what the feelings of the main character are. So I think that's why I like this cover so much. I have Clair de Lune here by Cassandra Golds. I, yet again, just love that it looks like a really nice painting. It has this really beautiful font, and I like the combination of the green on the side and this blue color that is going on. It's another one with a picture that really expresses the book and what's going on with the book. So it's just, yay, you got, Clair de Lune and her little mouse friend, and it's just cute. And we have one of my super faves, which is this special edition of Peter Pan. This book has illustrations and designs by the Mina Lima company. Some of them are interactive, so it's got little books and all that stuff that you can move around that are inside. So the actual edition is really beautiful, but the colors and the actual indents and the way the book feels are just really lovely. The side with this little starburst is beautiful. And also just kind of the inside papers are quite nice and expressive. So I just love this cover, and I also love the illustrations inside. If you want a beautiful book, you gotta get this book, because like the whole thing is just beautiful, and it's fun to read as well. Another like very fun simple paperback edition that I love is this edition of Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. I picked this edition because I really like how they depicted the book in a kind of different way than you usually think of this book or movie being depicted. Usually, you know, it's the picture of Clarice with like the moth on her lips, and it's got like the skull shape on it, and I kind of didn't want that when I bought the book. I wanted something kind of different, so I went with this one when I saw it, and it does have the moth, but it's just like a really cool looking sort of colored moth, and I did like that it had this like bar of black at the bottom and just this kind of interesting off-white color. I also like that on the back it's got half of the moth. I don't know why, but I just really think that this cover is simplistic but very pretty. Then I have a couple of the Barnes & Noble's special editions that they sell. Those are all very pretty, and I'm deciding to show up both of the two that I have. First one is the Le Morte d'Arthur cover. I particularly like this one because it's got this sort of inlay of a artwork drawing of the characters in there, and then it's got this really cool shape. It's of course got my favorite thing, like I talked about, the vines, and just this real lovely gold leaf, and I love how the side has these kind of edgings, and that is also beautiful. Just got these this really intricate work in the back. It's Celtic and leafy and drawing-y. It's like all my favorite things in a book cover. It's beautiful. The other one that's kind of like that is this lovely edition of the complete Sherlock Holmes books. Same kind of ideas, just different pictures. It's got the profile of Sherlock Holmes and these really cool London-esque kind of imagery things to frame it, which I think are lovely. And then we have that lovely Hound of the Baskervilles, which I still have yet to read, but we have it right there. And of course, the fabulous back that has all this cool sort of wallpapery looking imagery, and then I get a kick out of how in the center it says 221B, which is where Sherlock Holmes lives, and I just think that's a cute little element. It's just a lovely book to have on your shelf looking fabulous. Another super favorite of mine is the illustrated edition of The Princess Bride. This nice mix of shiny and matte going on with it, but of course it's illustrated, and they've done like a color drawing of what some of the drawings look inside of Buttercup and Wesley, which I think is fabulous, and I love the font for it, and I do love this little circular shape, and of course the gold leafing. It also on the back has a picture, I believe it's Inigo and Wesley having their little duel that they have, which is very cool in this little circle. It's just drawing awesomeness. The next one is sort of a movie tie-in type of book. It's the screenplay for the movie Mirror Mask. If you haven't watched the movie Mirror Mask and you just like cool, odd stuff, you definitely want to check it out. But it's got just the most fabulous cool picture on the front, and of course the cool like font for the Mirror Mask font, but it also has just these lovely little images that are from the film and these very cool masks and things. This book is pretty cool because also on the inside, because it is the whole screenplay, but it also includes just like pictures for the storyboard of the scenes, and I think that is quite lovely on the inside as well. Next, I have the entire trilogy for the Looking Glass Wars. So there's this one, and this one, and this one, They're all lovely. I think the Seeing Red is probably the favorite just because she looks so red and evil. The very cool thing about the first two books is that when you take the dust jacket off, it's just also really fabulous artwork underneath. And they have this sort of theme with the Evil Queen red and then this cool landscape in the back. However, though, I don't know, I guess they decided that they didn't want to spend the money to do that on the last book, and it's just plain and black. And the sadness, guys, the sadness was real. Although I do love the book cover, I just wish they'd done the same theme that they had with the other two. But you know, all three book covers are really fabulous and they express what the book's about, and what more can you ask for? Next, I have the illustrated edition of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. The illustrations are done by a comic book artist named Dame Darcy. She writes her own graphic novels and illustrates them, and she has this really cool style that's sort of doodly but not. I've never read one of her full graphic novels, but one of her comics was featured in another book that I'm going to mention last in this video. This is just a really cool cover. However, I just looked inside my book and somebody has spilled something on it, and that kind of makes me annoyed. But regardless, it is also another one that is really cool inside. It's got these cool color illustrations in it, as well as black and white illustrations that are very fun. So beautiful inside and out yet again. I do really like how when she draws people, she does these really cool, huge eyeballs. So that is an extra plus. Just so fun. Wow, this is gonna take up the whole frame. And the last one that I have is Comic Book Tattoo. And this is basically a book where Tori Amos, the singer, had a bunch of comic book artists and writers create comics for some of her songs. So this is the cover and I love it so much. And also it's got this really cool lime green side. Of course, it's got, you know, really beautiful comic book work by a lot of people inside. So the artwork is just amazing just inside as well. Just wow inside. It also includes a comic in here by Dame Darcy, who did the cover and the illustrations for that Jane Eyre book that I just mentioned. Now I will say though, get this book in hardcover if you get a chance, because I got this in paperback and it fell apart. I'm working on getting it in hardcover, but you know, it's rather pricey, so I'm just kind of saving up. But when I do, maybe I'll just like rip this cover off completely and just hang it on my wall because it is so fabulous. Those were some of my favorite book covers. That is it for today. I will see you all next week. Thank you for watching. Bye!